as they were. Yeah, I think so. Let's call this meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All board members are here. Jenny Bando is excused. This meeting was submitted to the Green Bay Press-Gazette on Friday, May 16th, 2025. The meeting notice was distributed on Friday, May 16th, 2025 for posting to the Bank of Luxembourg Home Office, Luxembourg Post Office, and Casco Post Office. Our district's mission statement: we inspire minds, challenge students, and promote excellence. We are Spartans. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Dave, second.
I'll second.
Motion by Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comments on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. Prior to making a public comment, individuals must announce their name, address, and group affiliation, if any. Each speaker's comments are limited to 3 minutes. All statements are to be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Speakers should not expect an immediate response or reaction to their comments. Do we have any? Seeing and hearing none. Our next meeting dates, subject to change, are June 18th, 2025 at 7, July 16th, 2025 at 7, and both will be in this building, in this room. Any board opening comments? Dave?
CISA 7 had their annual reorganization meeting, and for the first time in I don't know how many years, Luxemburg-Casco did not retain its seat. There were 6 districts vying for 3 open slots, and Luxemburg-Casco lost by 1 vote. So we will not be on the Board of Control for at least for the next year, assuming that we would still attempt to regain the seat at next year's annual reorganization.
Oh my God.
Seymour ended up taking out the spot.
Taking
That,
us?
yeah. It's unusual that there's sometimes that we have no one districts
wants
running.
it.
Yep. And this time there were 6 running for 3 open spots. So that happens.
New president, new board. Okay, anyone else? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted under one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items prior to the time the board votes, unless a board member requests an item to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Do I have an approval?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Alex?
I'll
By your-
second.
Second by Jenny, all in favor?
Comments?
Oh,
I did have questions, however, I sent them off to Rebecca. I don't know if she sent them off, answers to anyone else or not, but appreciate you getting back to me. Everything was fine. I appreciate it. So very timely also. Thank you very much.
okay. So motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Administrative reports.
I'll go first since Pete's sitting next to me, so you can be second today. Two things. One is the Healthcare Academy, Bellin Health, Bellin College. We are putting in a proposal to speak at the State Ed Conference, just on collaborative community and career readiness options. As some of you went to the awards night, the seniors, and how many college credits they have, and it's just really some amazing things that how can we get our students ahead of everybody else, right? That's really the goal. If you know what you kind of want to do, if you don't, you know, kind of work your way through that. And then the second part is it's always impressive to me. We've gone through all the training for the science of reading, our teachers, but we are offering a second layer to that, which is what happens when a student struggles. It's called structured literacy, where we actually go down and it teaches them how to break down assessments to a farther degree. It's not a required training. Our reading interventionists have all gone through it, and I think we have 14 other staff members that are going through it. So if a student was in third grade or fourth grade and was struggling in fluency, it gives them additional strategies to teach fluency. That's as simple as I can make it for you. So it's super exciting that they would do it, because it's not a requirement. But our teachers have always invested in themselves, so just very thankful for that, because it's an additional 30 hours during the summer that they do this training, so.
Okay, guys, Pete, you're next.
My turn? Wow. Okay, so the year is coming to a screeching halt. Things are happening. Kindergarten had their end of year celebration last week on Friday, I think, up here at the auditorium. And it was packed. It was pretty full. There were a few seats way in the back that were empty, but not too many. 4K has their graduation on Thursday this week. And then on the last day, we have what we call our field day. It's kind of a fun day in the morning, and then hopefully it warms up, because otherwise it's going to be pretty cold for the dunk tank. So, but yeah.
Dunk tank?
Yeah.
Who's the lucky winner who gets to sit in that?
We're looking for a board member. New one.
Waiting for the motion and the second approval of that.
No, but it's a fun day. The kids enjoy it, and I'm sure there's going to be some tears and sadness at the end when we wave goodbye to the kids. So. But yeah, it's coming fast.
Pretty low-key on my end as well. This week we're just wrapping up a few field trips. We've got third grade Rural Days tomorrow at the Kewanee County Fairgrounds. That's all day. We have a lot of different vendors that they get to see and be part of an experience where they learn about various things, whether it's seatbelt safety or swimming safety, electrical, things like that. So it's a really great day for them to just explore some community career opportunities, obviously age appropriate for them, just getting them to learn about those things early on. Sixth grade has their end of the year celebration trip. They're going bowling into Titletown on Thursday, and then we have Jake's Jumpers in the last day of school. Same thing as Pete. I mean, the weather's not looking great. It's not supposed to rain, knock on wood for now, but we're looking at mid-40s while the kids are outside. So I'm trying to prep families to truly pack kids with appropriate clothes, because obviously we had summer vibes already, and a lot of kids are coming to school in t-shirts and shorts, and I'm a little worried about them showing up that morning with the same apparel on, which is going to cause some issues and or lots of shivers. But the year definitely went quicker than I feel like last year did, and gearing up for year 3.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Since the last meeting, we had Egg Career Days, which I don't know if Joanne will say more about that, but all of the feedback that at least got to my ear was positive. There were a couple of people who told our staff, and one or two that told me eventually that, there was, from their perception, the LC kids were fantastic. And it's something that we usually hear, but we still like to hear it. So kudos to that. Echoing the winding down, between, the last few days, student projects being, carried into the building, all those sorts of things. The students and staff are winding down. Some finals yet, some projects to do, some presentations, that sort of thing. For us, the last day, we're doing it like we normally do. So the morning, we're going to do a lot of the awards and all those kinds of things in-house. We shorten the schedule so they can make it through. And then a couple of hours of fun, which, if you're interested in some of that energy, if you can imagine ever, being at like a birthday party with 10 or 12 kids about the age of the middle school, there's like about 300 for that 5, as it were. Also doing some summer planning and planning for next year. There's a lot of that going on for sure, but the end is near.
If I seem a little tired this evening, I'll apologize. I was woken a little early this morning. about 40 seniors that turned my backyard into a bed and breakfast last night.
You're not the only one who's tired, Tyson.
So about, I could hear some chattering outside, probably about 4:30. And then about 5:20, I had 3 seniors that came over to my Ring doorbell and gave a, "Good morning, Mr. Klotch." So I got up and let the dog out and went outside and walked around the corner of my house, and about 40 kids were there playing yard games, grilling up some pancakes, sleeping out on lawn chairs.
Don't forget the tent.
Yes, so there was 4 boys that decided they said about midnight, they showed up with the tent and popped the tent up, and the rest of them told me they showed up about 4 o'clock in the morning, so, I'd woken our girls up, and I told them, you know, look out the back window, and my youngest, she pulls the blinds up and looks, and she goes, "What is happening?" She was so confused, so it was good, it was funny, the kids got a kick of it, it was in good fun, and, my wife got a kick out of it as well, but I was woken up a little earlier this morning.
I've heard yesterday, and I mentioned casually to my wife that I was going to give you a heads up, and I was scolded immediately that I could not do that.
So I've known about it for about 2 weeks. It got to me from multiple people. They didn't tell me exactly what day it was going to be happening. But yeah, it was fun. It was funny that some of the boys even made breakfast for the girls for this morning, and it was a good time. So outside of that, we had academic awards a couple weeks ago. We had over 100, and I think it was 105 total students getting academic awards from freshmen through seniors, which was really fun. The seniors, each of the seniors that were there kind of presented. Dave and Brady, thank you for coming that evening as well. But kind of touch on what Mike said as well. What was really cool is when the seniors would come up and they would talk, and they were asked what they feel their greatest high school accomplishment is. The amount of seniors that talked about the amount of college credits that they've received and that they've gotten when they're here. I mean, it just truly shows how powerful that is to the students themselves, and they know how much this sets them ahead for what they're going. So that was really cool to see. Today, after finally woke up, we had seniors come in, turned in Chromebooks, cleaned all lockers, then we went for, they put on their caps and gowns, we went through each of the buildings, which is always, it's always really cool to see those things at the end of the year for seniors graduating. Tomorrow is obviously a busy day in the morning at 9. We've got our senior awards ceremony. I looked at the agenda today and I totaled it up, and it's somewhere around like $960,000 of scholarships that we're giving out tomorrow, which is really cool. And then obviously graduation tomorrow night. So to echo what everybody else is saying, coming to a quick end. It's hard, very hard to believe that it's graduation already tomorrow night, but it's here, and ready or not, it's coming. 24 hours from now.
Things with me are going well. It feels good to be at the end of year 1 and have year 1 under my belt. I was down in Fond du Lac today for Initiative 1 training, and have very much appreciated the investment in that and that time to be able to kind of reflect on my leadership and set goals for moving forward. So that's been good. Last week we had our ML staff, our multilingual staff, had a family night, and it was very well attended. We were expecting about 90 people, and it definitely felt like we had 90 people there. It was over at Casco. We hired someone to make tamales for everybody, and pretty much went through all of those tamales, which was impressive. But it was just a nice celebration of students that reached English proficiency, and then also the graduating seniors, and kind of highlighting them with their families. So it was a really nice event and a nice chance to be able to touch base not only with the ML staff, but also just meet some of those families. The other big thing on my radar right now is this week will get uploaded all of our auditing information to DPI. We're still working through that process, expecting to close, they say, fall of next year. So it is a very long process. I feel like I keep talking about it, but that's because that's where we are. So at this point we have Barb Redham from DPI is going to be reviewing our files to just check for compliance and see if the adjustments that we made throughout this year to make sure that we are in compliance with writing our IPs are coming through and are kind of just day-to-day paperwork. So that's kind of the step where we are now, and looking forward to getting out of that process after fall of next year. So those are kind of big things on my radar right now.
All right, there is no update yet to the heat exchanger. I actually had met with Tom, who's from IKM, and that's the company that's helping us try to fight the warranty. He said that he is still working with Nexus to stating that the water testing was fine. We've been doing everything we should, so he's like, he doesn't see any reason to, but they're just kind of dragging their feet on that end. I also met with this Tom, as well as all the head custodians just this past week to get the preventative maintenance agreement going for the boilers, as well as the HVAC system. So right now, this gentleman's going to meet with each of the custodians, take pictures of everything, and then tailor it to what they can do and what we're gonna have them do and get some quotes, and then we'll bid that out. So I'm thinking like July, we'll probably have something come to the board to bid out for a maintenance agreement. That's where we're at.
And then at Career Days, it's a biennial, every other year event where all the 7th and 8th graders from Southern Door, Denmark, Algoma, Kiwani, and LC go 1 of 2 days to a local farm, and they explore different careers that support agriculture. So this year it was at Ebert's Farms. It's sponsored by KCEDC, and there were drones. There's vets. There was a company that does the robotics that kind of like sweeps the feed towards the cows, and so it's all sorts of different. That what?
It's an automatic feed pusher.
Yes, that's what it is.
I want one.
So the kids learn about robotics in agriculture and just tons of different careers, and it's not, and just a lot of different vendors were there. It was a really great event, and I did hear the same thing, is that our kids were very polite and well behaved, and so I got a lot of compliments. People sought me out to say how great our kids were compared to other kids. So that was pretty good. Also, I don't know if anybody had a chance to go to the variety show. It was awesome. Yeah, we have just talented kids singing, dancing, doing skits, doing a little comedy routine. It was a really nice night. It was very entertaining. Financially, the federal budget right now, the overall domestic discretionary spending, they're saying it's going to go down 22.6%, which is $163 billion. However, there's also the federal budget, a proposal for a budget increase in defense funding by more than $113 billion. So it's kind of shifting money away. Part of that is the U.S. Department of Education is slotted to lose about 15%, which is $12 billion. They're saying it can come back in the form of block grants through the Health and Human Services Department, but nobody said exactly how it's going to look or exactly how it would come to the states. But they are saying that most likely there's going to be cuts in Title II and Title III funding. Title II funding is for professional development and for offsetting for offsetting some teacher salaries. So what we actually do is we get $32,646 in Title II, and we use part of that to pay the salary of an instructional coach. And we also have mentors for our new teachers. That's part of our requirement, and so we pay those mentors for their time out of that grant as well. Title III is our English language learner support. We get about $8,000 in federal fund for that, and that helps pay for family engagement nights and for additional textbooks and workbooks and professional development. And so our total loss, if they take away Title II and Title III, would be about $40,000 out of our budget. Or not out of our budget, but grant money that we usually get that we would not get. Another thing that's being targeted is the FCCE rate. During COVID, there was an adjustment made so that districts could use ESSER funds to purchase hotspots for kids that didn't have Wi-Fi at home, so that they'd be able to do their homework, and that they're trying to pull that back. We do still have some households that we provide hotspots for Wi-Fi for kids, not a whole lot, but that's a big push too, is to change E-rate rules. From the state budget, the lawsuit was settled about Governor Evers using his line item veto to extend the $325 per pupil to 400 years. And so they said that was perfectly legal for him to do that, and so that's what we got. So again, we're getting no inflationary increase in our per pupil, we're just getting stuck right there. And then there was a lot of push for more money going into special ed. We now transfer about like $2.3 million from our general fund to cover special ed costs. And so any relief in special ed will allow more money to stay in our general fund. The push was for 60%, and nobody thought that would actually happen. So it's going down, and what they're saying now is it's going to look like it's going to be 10% added to the special ed bucket. So what happened last time is that they increased spending in special ed, and they said districts would be reimbursed 30%, but that's not what the language in the law said when they wrote it. It's they increased money into the bucket. Well, special ed costs are increasing, so when you said for your reimbursements, what's happening is districts are getting about 27% reimbursement, and they're looking at doing it the same way again. So they said they want to increase the special ed reimbursement by 10%, they're going to put 10% in the bucket. But that doesn't mean we're going to get 10%. I mean, it just means the bucket increased 10%, and all the districts are filing into that bucket looking for reimbursements, and so we probably will not get that much. Which is, the other thing that is being pushed is to increase reimbursement on high-cost special ed cases. So if we spend more than $30,000 on a student, like let's say we have to send them to an outside placement, and it's $50,000 a year, anything over 30,000, we have a higher reimbursement rate. And and people are trying to well, isn't that great? We can put more money in high cost. The thing is, high cost is a very small portion of a big special ed budget. And so it really is not going to help us, especially the districts that really don't have a whole lot of high cost special ed cases. It doesn't help them at all, pretty much. So it's a bad way to go, but that's going around the Capitol building, trying to be sold as so wouldn't this be a nice alternative? And what I'm hearing is nobody's quite buying that, so that's a good thing. There's not a lot of talk about increasing the low revenue spending limit or the low revenue ceiling limit, which would actually help us because we're right at that ceiling. So any increase means we would have an increase per pupil. I'm hearing no talk about increasing that at all, so that's unfortunate. So that's kind of where we are in the state budget at this point.
That was kind of a bummer for finishing.
Sorry. Sorry, just telling you how it is. There's still a lot, there's optimism, but it's two sides, and people are arguing, and, there's lots of money in the budget. There's billions of dollars in surplus, and it's not being spent on education. Although all the listening sessions around the state, when you look at the topics that were discussed, education is the number one. So, I mean, the legislators are being told that that's a concern across the state, and, what can you do?
Okay, 2024-25 budget status.
Well, now, I'll bring good news.
Okay, yes, this is the business part.
So, 24-25, this is end of year estimates. These numbers go through early May. We started with an original budget, balanced budget of $27,017,475. So that's for the revenues and expenses. And I'm just going to point out just some of the highlights so that we're not doing line by line. And then if you guys have any questions. So on the revenue side, we received $68,500 in gifts. That is for the diesel program, and then a huge portion was for the Fab Lab equipment. Grants, we received $98,718, the nursing grant, the Fast Forward grant that tech guys had put together, which was wonderful, and then the firefighter grant, for $24,000 that Mike had worked on. Interest, I'm estimating right now $48,000. That's a lot higher than we've ever had, but part of that is due to investing more at WISC, but also changing our savings account at Bank Luxembourg that has a higher interest rate. So we did that this past year. Refunds of $35,000 $5,391, workman's comp dividend, and then workman's comp audit refund. Those tend to, the dividend is always something we get every year, usually around, 30,000, and then the workman's comp audit tends to be a refund based on, once they do an audit based on the payroll numbers, if your numbers are off, they'll refund it based on the actuals then, because it's estimated for the following year. And then the E-rate reimbursement is money off of Insight that we receive back off the internet services from the prior year. So that, right now we're estimating additional revenues of $226,494. On the expenses, the second page, bus garage, we're saving, and this is just their supplies, $38,000. So they continue to use the zero-based budgeting and purchase only what is needed at the time. Board of Education, that is down $50,000, and that's a huge part to less attorney fees and advertising that we had from the previous school year, so that's been wonderful. Utilities is down $50,000, $178,000. I did budget additional costs. We also had not a very super cold winter, and I also locked in 80%, so I had 3 separate locks on natural gas rates to keep that cost lower than what the market is. And then fuel down $74,445. We usually do fill 5 times a year, and this year it was 4, so I do believe it's a lot. Some of the route changes that we've done, not going house to house in town, so it's been a lot less. And then the lesser field trips. So that is helping. Tuition is down $103,000. Now, when Mike and I talked to budget for 24-25, we upped it knowing that more kids were getting into these programs with the 3 different larger programs. We're now seeing the reimbursements come back for the ones that are over the 18 credits. So some of it's kind of hard to predict. So we are a little bit more conservative, so we've got some room in there. And so we actually spent $493,925 less than what we had budgeted. So our projected surplus right now, and this is still conservative, is $720,420. Is there any questions?
Yes, very good.
Yeah, very detailed, thanks Rebecca. You're welcome.
That was a great report.
Thank you.
Looks good. Okay, Luxemburg-Casco.
I'll flip you for it. So, after the sale of the land in Casco did not go through, we recommitted to letting FFA alumni farm that land. And then the harvest they used for scholarships and for activities for our FFA club. And so they were going to go in and start to till the field to get it ready. And then they were told that they couldn't use fertilizer and they could only plant alfalfa. And so then they called us, and I'm like, I have never heard that this was limitations on this. And so then there has been conversations back and forth between the village president and, Alex was talking to him, I was talking to him, I think Jesse was trying to get some information. Finally, we're going to their village board meeting on June 3rd, and we're trying to find out what the zoning ordinance is, what the rules are for the land, because we haven't been notified. I mean, we've been doing this for years. We didn't do it last year because we were going to be selling the land, so we didn't want to plant anything if we were going to be selling it. Turning around, going back to our past practice, and now we're being told we can't do that on our own land. So, that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little awkward. The fertilizer comment gets me because they fertilize the baseball fields in the village of Casco, and that's okay, but they're telling us we can't fertilize the 15 acres for agricultural use.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd like some clarification on how they can stand on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe back increasing our attorney fees.
Well,
Well,
I'm hoping we gotta get there,
We try to
but.
Well, I
have
would
informal
hope not, but-
conversation just to get the information, and they
Yeah.
would not have an informal conversation with us.
Yeah.
So we will have a formal one.
So if anyone else wants to come, June 3rd at 6:30?
Yep, yep.
I might attend that.
Good.
The more the merrier. Okay, discuss and approve the 25-26 fuel bids.
All right, so I sent out fuel bids, to a lot more companies this year, some more of the local ones, and then the 4 that we've always done, which was Country Visions. We've always done Ellisville, Garrow Oil, and, Quality State. Only 4 replied. This was hard this year. I know we had some issues, and there were some, I should say, some concerns with when we worked with Garrow, and when ordering the, what's the word I'm thinking of?
The winter additive?
Thank you. I was gonna say alternative. I'm like, that's not it. Additive. I was impressed though that Garrow did, try to rectify it right away. I mean, they came the next day, helped water test and whatever. That being said, I know we've gone with Ellisville before when it was a little bit more money. I mean, I put on here to make the recommendation to go locally again. It is faster service. They're right here. I know we've gotten a patronage, like dividend reimbursement too, that gets applied depending on what we're purchasing. But yeah, that's my recommendation right now.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second. Motion's been made and seconded to go with the Ellisville Luxemburg-Casco co-op. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What? Oh. Did you just identify yourself?
Sure.
Sure.
Open enrollment for 25-26.
As part of the open enrollment process, the board needs to, approve the open enrollment applications. The summary sheet gives you the information about, historically, how many students have been open enrolled in, open enrolled out. We have 20 open enrollment seniors that are graduating this year. We're still, in a positive. Currently, there's 70 students open enrolling out, and there's 305 that are open enrolling in. So we're still, it still is income for the district, and filling seats that would be normally empty, because we are a declining enrollment district.
Discussion?
Yeah.
Motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion by Jenny.
I'll second.
Second by Brandy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. CESA 7 contract.
So we contract with CESA 7 for different services, that it's more cost effective to contract with them than to have them ourselves. This is the first year of a 2-year contract. Last year, because of our fiscal situation, we just entered into a 1-year contract. And we do services, so we kind of bowed out of the Math Leaders Network and the Computer Science Network. But now, for this upcoming school year, we're looking at a 2-year contract so that we get a discount on services. The Learning for Independence is a program for 18 to 21-year-olds with intellectual or developmental disabilities, and that's a transition program that we contract to CESA for our kids.
Discussion?
Make a motion.
I'll second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Contract with Kiel Area School District.
So last year, we switched from JEDI to Kiel for virtual school services, and this is just the contract to continue with Kiel. The advantage of Kiel is that they do have online special ed services. The base curriculum for both Kiel and JEDI was the same. So, but Kiel's easy to work with. We have a good working relationship with them, and they have more to offer. So we'd like to continue with them.
They have a lot of nice offerings. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Robin, was that you?
Yep.
Okay. Motion by Robin, second.
I'll second.
Second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Exploratory FFA.
So, what started with a student who reached out to me and said, hey, Mr. Chandler, how about FFA at the middle school? Turned into a couple of conversations, turned into an opportunity to meet with Ms. Selk, and it seems as though there's generating some interest. Calling it exploratory and an offering only for the 8th grade, that particular student happens to be a 7th grader. There's a variety of reasons it makes sense to try it with 8th grade. And in general concept, it's similar to like what we do with 6th graders in track, where they attend home-only events. So the idea would be for the middle schoolers to just be part of kind of the home-only things. They can't officially be called FFA because they are not receiving agriculture instruction by an FFA and not instruction by an FFA advisor. So. And at this time, we're projecting, at least for this year, no budgetary impact. Now, depending on how popular this gets, that could be a different conversation a day in the future.
I see heads shaking. Do I have a motion?
I'll make
Motion by Alex, second.
I'll second.
Second by Jenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6th grade participation in MS Go.
Yep, so, and I apologize, I originally provided you with a supplementary document, and the first page had been updated, but the reverse side, that second page, I forgot to update that. So I left you an updated version at your spot. We have run 7th and 8th grade golf. We run it as a 7th and 8th grade only opportunity. And we've had numbers that supported that, and that's just the way we had done it. And then there was a little bit of interest as the season came near this year about, well, what about 6th grade? And at the time, we were concerned about numbers, and we had some of the conversation. The high school coaches reached out to me along with our coach. I talked with Heather, talked with Jenny, things like that. I also found out that those schools that we participate with are routinely bringing 6th grade, some of them 5th grade, because their middle school is either 6 through 8 or 5 through 8, that sort of thing. So when I think back to what the board had advised me when we had the conversation about wrestling with 5th grade back in 2021 or 22, and then track when we talked about them for 6th grade, it would be a similar concept there. That group of schools, they would be fine with it. Right now, we don't think, we're not looking for an additional coach, an additional assistant. The way that operates is 5 kids golf on any one day. And so when we've had numbers that are more than 5, so if it's 10 or 13, they just do a rotation of opportunities, and that's communicated to the kids. So.
Any particular reason why the 7th and 8th grade numbers are down?
That is a very good question that we don't have an answer to yet. I'm not sure if it's a popularity thing. I'm not sure exactly what it is. For the first time this year, though, I did hear that there were kids who were stepping away from either golf or track because they were in driver's ed already. Because now that kids can have their temps at 15, they can start doing driver's ed even earlier than that. So we had a couple of those. I can't say that's the reason, but it sounds like it's part of the reason for some families right now.
Just looking for a motion to approve allowing the 6th graders to participate in the middle school golf program then?
Yeah, ultimately, it would be something that we hadn't done before. So I was either seeking approval or guidance, whatever technically had to
I'd make
happen
a
there.
motion to move forward with that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Co-op with the Denmark equestrian team.
And we have some of the coaches. Izzy, why don't you come on up and explain the co-op program?
This is Heather.
Okay, thank
So
you.
Heather's actually the coach, and then Kim Keeney and I are the trainers. Do we qualify as coaches? Yes. Okay, we do qualify as coaches. So we are seeking more interest in our program. We want more kids to be able to participate, and right now I believe we only have 4 from Denmark. And what they do is they have their horses, they can lease horses from our barn at Scarborough Creek Equestrian Center, and then participate in speed events, Western pleasure, hunter under saddle, bareback, and the more participants you have, the more classes you can take, and that just gives us more of an opportunity to win, versus just having 4 kids and putting them in, maxing out as many classes as they can take. And with partnering with another school, we can have more students and be able to do that. And there was one student that works at our barn right now that has said that there's a lot of kids interested here. We got the okay from the WEHA board, which is the Wisconsin Interscholastic Horsemanship. And now we just need the approval from LC to co-op. They have practices right now every other Monday, and then when it gets closer to competition, we do it every Monday. It's Kim and I, it's all volunteer. We have the district show, which is in September, beginning of October this year, and then state, if they qualify for state, is at the end of October. So we trailer them there. Some kids have trailers. They do their classes, show if they win, then we go to state. It's all funded. We do fundraising. They just are having a pizza fundraiser at Happy Joe's tonight. Yes.
And then we're doing a car show at the Painted Pelican, so those proceeds go for that program. You're just broadening your horizons,
You're-
Izzy.
You're-
With the newborn now, it's.
You're saying there would be no cost to the district, or cost to district students, or where's the cost?
The cost on the sheet is the $150. That usually covers the WEHA fees, which are like $45, and then that covers like an extra insurance if something would happen to any of the children. And then the other $100 is usually we put towards the stall fees at our regional competition.
So are those fees then paid by like the student who chooses to participate?
Correct.
I think that's what Dave's question was.
Sorry about that.
And transportation, is that everyone's on their own for that, or is that something that district is responsible for?
All on their own.
It's just like the fishing team, really.
That's what I thought. I mean, that was the first thing
That's
when
what
I
spiked
read
the
it,
interest,
that-
was I saw the fishing team, they co-op with another school?
They do not, we've done some co-competitions, but
Okay,
it's
maybe it was
LC's.
trap or something that had seen had co-ops maybe once before, but that's where the conversation got brought up. Get more students to participate.
And there are quite a few other schools in the WEHA that do co-op with other schools, just to make a bigger group and a bigger team.
And then we have some on the other side of the page, a couple of school districts that co-op their equestrian.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Raise
for
it.
It's good.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
you.
Motion carried.
Thanks, girls.
Thank you.
Yes. HOSA Club.
So at the high school, we're looking at another club, which is HOSA. HOSA stands for Health Occupations Students of America. So it's very similar to an FBLA, so Future Business Leaders of America, just geared more towards the health occupations end of it. And what they do is it's all student-led, kind of like student council is as well. They elect the president, vice president, things like that. And then what they do is they plan activities throughout the year, whether that be going to tour hospitals, bring in speakers, whether that be doctors, nurses, things like that, but just trying to continue to provide more opportunities here at schools for the different professions that are out there for our students.
And then Bellin Colleges will be a host. We just talked about this on Tuesday. Well, this morning, yeah. They would be they'd be a host for a regional competition. So and they would be a HOSA advisor for all the area healthcare academies. So it's kind of a way to help get kids to help them figure out what they wanna do when they grow up if
Well,
you're in
it's-
healthcare.
It's really good with all of the kids that are going into the health
Mhm.
field right now,
Yeah.
so.
Correct.
I'll make a motion on that.
I'll second.
Question on that,
Mhm.
has there been any interest from staff in terms of who would be the advisors for the organization, for the club?
Yes, Amber Connor.
Yeah, that was in our,
Consent
in
agenda.
the.
Oh, I missed that.
Yep, Amber Connor, and she held an initial meeting about 2 weeks ago, and I believe she said 23 or 24 students showed up to that initial meeting as well, so there is quite a few student interest in it also.
That's cool.
Okay, UW System Early College Credit. Oh, sorry. Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving right along. Motion carried. UW System Early College Credit Classes.
Just finishing up all of requests for either GBTC classes for fall, so we got one student that is interested in taking some music classes at UWGB, and then we got a couple students that are looking to take some classes at TC.
Motion?
You make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Oh, Brandon can have it.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Change in the job description for existing open special education teaching positions.
Yeah, so we have 6 open special education positions. We have filled one of those 5 positions, and we have not had a ton of licensed applicants for those positions across the district. So, in brainstorming and trying to think creatively, this was one of our thoughts about shifting one of those positions at the intermediate school to be a reading specialist, because that has been gaining traction, and there's quite a few people with a reading license that may be interested in that. A reading specialist is the one person besides a special ed teacher who can provide specially designed instruction as outlined in a student's IEP. So basically what we would do is they would not be able to write the full IEP and case manage under that reading license, but they could provide all of that specially designed instruction in reading. So it would help kind of alleviate with our current staff if we had a teacher in there who could at least cover and do all of the reading components for our special education students. So we're hoping that maybe by shifting that change in position, that we might generate a candidate interested in that type of a position that would help alleviate some pressure from our special ed department as we're struggling to fill those positions with licensed staff.
Majority of our specially designed instruction minutes are in reading, so it will be a relief to the teachers in some capacity, especially when we're considering the alternative of having either nobody or someone coming in unlicensed.
And our plan is to post it as looking for someone who is interested in heading into that special ed path, so that potentially down the line, we may be able to have that person obtain their special ed license. It would probably still continue to have that reading focus, but they would be able to do the full IEP and case manage and things like that.
And internally amongst this team, we've discussed this for probably the last 3 years or so, but we feel like now is the time to, like, we're always trying to brainstorm, how do we solve these problems? And it's a big deal, and those students need the right instruction, and it's the best way we can align it, and the teachers are very qualified to do it, we're not just pulling someone out, so.
I would like to just throw out there too, we've had in my building the 3rd grade special education position that you guys had approved at the last board meeting, and then the intellectual disabilities one, both had been posted for the month, and we had 1 applicant. So, the others from the Philippines, we get a lot of bots, I think, is what I think we're considering them to be on weekend. So 1 legitimate person and then 1 bot.
Pete's position has had the most interest. He's had 3 licensed applicants and 3 who don't have a license, so his has been the most. Middle school position, we haven't had any movement. We did have 1 person apply, and we hired that person as our one of the intermediate school positions. The other candidate we weren't able to move forward with, and then our high school position, we have 1 applicant without their special ed license. So we're likely will be looking at hiring some people that are interested in special ed but don't have that knowledge or license yet, and be working on supporting them next year.
Salary wise, is there a difference between somebody who's in special ed or reading?
It's the same, it's all the teachers.
And really, they'd be doing the same job, it's just that you're able to curtail the description because most of what they're doing is helping with reading and not all the special ed.
It's the paperwork they're not able to help with, which is still a lot of work on that end. So the special ed teachers will have to pick up that portion of it. They can write the plan, cause they understand how to do all that, but
So they'll have, our special ed teachers will have higher caseloads, but they won't be responsible for servicing all of those minutes because this person can come and across the board service those reading minutes for all of those teachers. So just trying to think creatively of how we can get,
Oh, it's a
get the
it's a
needs
great
met.
solution.
So.
I think it's a good idea.
It is a great idea, but really having that special ed interest beyond the year one is gonna be really important, just because obviously we want to lessen the load on the rest of our teachers, whereas they're gonna have to, like Mike said, pick up the slack at least for year one. We'd like to try to even that back out in years 2 and 3 or 4, however long that person is interested. So it's a fix for now. It's not perfect. That's why we had to get creative. I mean, we've thrown 5 or 6 random things out there of things we could have done as an alternative to this, and this is what makes the most sense for us right now.
Need a motion to move forward?
Motion by Dave, second.
I'll second, go ahead.
Second by Jonathan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Bus drivers.
By state statute, bus drivers get contracts. So this is just reviewing and approving the contracts for the bus drivers.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discuss and approve extended contracts.
So you have a list in the, agenda, but then also within the packet, are the, more of the high school extended hours. So these are the same as, total hours as last year. The CTE machine maintenance hours are a little bit different, but we talked to the guys and, these are the hours that they are comfortable with. Everybody else is the same as last year.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made, second.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Wage increase for non-certified staff.
Right, so we did meet with the HR committee, that was probably a few weeks ago, to talk about wage increases. We actually went a little bit higher with support staff, we're looking at $1 per hour increase. We did the same, as last year to try to get them up higher, because they've been on the low side for quite a while. So that total cost for support staff, and that support staff is gonna include everybody that's on that, salary schedule, along with, the payroll department, people in the district office, business office, IT, the grounds department, mechanics, and nurses. So that's, that entire group, is $114,133. And then the bus drivers, we're looking at a regular route daily rate increase of 50 cents on their daily rate of $23.52 is the total. So the total of those two groups is $116,484.65. And then all the other group pay groups that are down below is not part of the 2.95% budgeting wages. They all have their own separate category that we track. But then we increase those $1, and that's what those budget impacts are. So those are really minimal: fitness center, the summer cleaners, summer library, et cetera, and all the substitutes. So we were recommending to increase all of those. The other large amount was the external sub coverage. To shift that, it's been $130 per day for quite a few years now. And so we're recommending $140 per day, and that impact is at $15,740.
comments? Motion?
I make a motion.
Motion's been made, second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made, seconded, all in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Replacement of the water heaters.
All right, I was recently at a conference too when a lot of this occurred, and so I got some more information on this, and this is out of our normal practice of not getting additional bids. There's a couple reasons why, but it's up to the board how they want to move forward with it. There was a leak on one of the water heaters at the primary, because it has rusted on the bottom. Now, Lee stated that it looked always really bad on the surrounding bottom part, which he does not have a picture of that, but he said he could maintain it, so it was never an issue that it came up to be on a projects list. It was within the last past year, and it's been manageable. The leak has actually started to get larger, so I asked him to get a quote, and he had ECG come in. They stated it is not an emergency, but he said just be mindful of it, that you guys are tied to the city water, so it's an indefinite flow, and he said Lee could walk in the door and there could be water all over the place, so he's like, I'm just letting you guys know the situation. He also stated, the vendor that he got the bid on for the 2 water heaters that he's recommending, which is a higher version than what we currently have, they asked when will the project be done, because he said he could only guarantee about a 2-week hold on the rates, because they're looking at a 9% increase due to the tariff situation on their end. So he just said, hey, I'm just letting you guys know, but it's up to you guys how you move forward with it. These are now both 25 years old. The average life expectancy, I found out today, is 20 years on them, so they have made it past 5, but he is concerned with the hard water that we have here. How much longer they're really gonna go, knowing one is already failing. He feels the second one will be. By the picture, and you guys got the picture, right? He said to get to the second one, which is the one that's leaking, they would have to get access to remove the first one. So he said if they're both 25 years, you're best to just get both of them. So that being said, that's the information. I can get more bids if you'd like me to, and we can wait for the following month.
You had mentioned that they're higher. I'm pretty sure they're same hot water heater, they're just newer.
Yeah, he said a newer version of what we have, correct,
But
and more efficient.
Yeah.
Way more, yeah. So he
The
wanted us
efficiency
to
is
stick
pretty
with that
crazy.
brand.
I think the ones we have now are like in the high 70s, and this is 96.
Okay.
So we're looking at a significant energy savings.
We're pretty much all at higher efficiencies now.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I know Dave had some concerns, and I just wrote him, I said, this is just not my area of expertise, but I'm trying.
And I appreciate you getting back to me with all the,
Yep.
this one, I don't know if it went to everyone else or not, but I appreciate it.
It did
I-
not,
I
so-
would like to have you go ahead and get additional bids on it. There's other contractors around, and I realize that the one you got is from a reputable firm, but practices we should, and especially coming in. Now, a question I have, and I don't know if Lee would know the answer to that or not, but can the one that is leaking be isolated in terms of just shut off, so we're just utilizing the one water heater that is not leaking at this time?
Yes. It can be isolated.
That
If
would
we
be
go
fine.
into the 9% increase, which is gonna happen, so that's like an additional, and your the equipment cost is 20,000, so $2,000. The other issue is, EC&D does our controls. They did the controls from the beginning, and they do our controls now, so they'll still be coming back to do the controls. That's one of the things that's in their bid, so even if we have somebody else do it, we'll still be having them come back for, I'm sure, a lot smaller fee than doing this, but they'll still be coming back to do the control work, because that's the same thing with the boilers, because one heat exchanger, the igniter not being on.
I'd make a motion to go ahead and get additional bids.
many days to decide this? If we put a 9%?
He said he could possibly hold it for a couple weeks, is what the vendor stated, which, if that's the vendor these are the water heaters that I would be bidding out. So I'm sure they would all be getting it through the same vendor, so they're gonna be told the same thing.
There's only one manufacturer for them, is that what you're saying?
That I don't know, because that's really their end when they bid it out,
That's-
like I
guess
don't,
that's Because if they're not coming from overseas somewhere or another
Right.
country.
Yeah,
then
I don't know where they get
won't
them.
have it.
Probably only one distributor for this hot water heater in our area.
This is the
Because
most
they're-
commonly used
they're
water.
territorial, and this is the one you're gonna want because it's stainless steel and Luxembourg has hard water.
And when else
Very hard.
makes stainless steel. I'm
No,
thinking
others-
Berkman, et
others-
cetera, that
sure,
deals
other-
with-
There are probably other hot water heaters out there, but then you have to keep in mind that if you get bids, it may not be apples to apples if you really wanna. If we're replacing with what we have, just the newer version, which lasted us 25 years, the experiment was expected to be 20, that would be my route also. We can probably buy cheaper hot water heaters, but I wouldn't recommend that when we have good luck with these.
I'd still like to see others. That maybe a Cadillac, but I don't drive a Cadillac. I think we could find out something maybe just as comparable. We go and get some bids, we've got time. The only thing that you're saying is, there might be a tariff increase. You're saying that.
There will be.
The
There
ones that
will
are
be.
coming
He's
from are
just-
coming from where?
He has this price because when he called last week, they agreed to hold it for him. So if she gets bids on this hot water heater, the bids that she gets, we'll have a 9% increase. We could get other hot water heaters bid, but I don't think we should cheap out on equipment that lasts this long because.
And no other company makes one that lasts as long, or what? That's what I feel like we're being rushed again.
I feel like if we go ask somebody for a better bid, they're gonna give us the least expensive hot water heater they can.
Not necessarily.
I'm not opposed to bids, but it would have to be like it would have to be a 1 week thing, so we don't miss out on that price, that's my only concern with it.
And I think that if we're gonna do that, we should be really careful with how we get a bid, it should be apples to apples. If somebody comes back with a really,
Well, they should option it, be like, this is this is the
Yeah.
other option. I don't, but if we can get it done in a timely fashion, I don't know. That's my only concern.
So right now, we have a motion to hold off and go out for bids. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to hold off and go out for bids. All in favor? Opposed?
nay.
Nay.
Okay, so nays have it. So do I have a motion then to?
So what, can we get clarification of who was yeses and who was noes?
Okay, so Brandy and Dave were yays.
Hmm?
And the others were no.
Okay.
Okay, then I need a
I'd like
motion
to-
then to go with this, or,
Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna make a motion that we go ahead and call for a special meeting within 10 days, so that we have time to get bids and have a special meeting without losing out on that possible 9% tariff.
okay, would we be in the window with the with the 10 days?
I don't know, my only worry, like, it's not a bad idea, but it's getting the companies to come here to view it. I mean, I already have typed up, like, what the proposal would be, and that these are the two water heaters, but knowing most of them, I'm sure they're gonna wanna come in, look at it, see what other things that need to be done to be sure, to bid it, and then can they all get here in a week? I don't know.
Monday's and Christmas Day.
Yeah, Mondays.
So, I mean, does someone gonna come the day after tomorrow? You know, that leaves you Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we're already
Okay, now I have a motion to have a special meeting within this 10-day program. Yeah, 10-day program timeline. Do I have a second on that one? Okay, hearing none. Are we gonna go back to, how about the replacement of the water heaters at the primary school?
I'm willing to make that motion, I'm letting Alex add.
Yeah, I'm
do his
just-
thoughts here.
All right. You're good. Free to go.
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so a motion by Rob, second by Alex, to go ahead and replace the water heaters at the primary school with the current bid. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call. Brandy? No. Dave?
No.
Rob?
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Primary school family handbook.
The only change was to the verbiage for the Title IX, I think, statement that's in all the handbooks. At least for mine, that was the only change
Okay.
from previous years.
Motion to approve the primary handbook.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Who was the second?
Me.
John, okay, John. Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Intermediate.
I also had minimal updates and changes. Obviously, we did the overhaul this past summer. I just added in a few things for clarity and or things that we're doing, like the Ames Web Plus assessment. Otherwise, the Title IX verbiage had changed as well. Lunch and milk prices changed based on last board meeting when Deb came and talked. Besides for that, the only other big change that we talked about as principals is in the drugs and alcohol section, adding tobacco. Well, tobacco was already there, adding nicotine. Just since those products that come in vaporized forms now are coming in both forms, so just trying to cover our bases on that. I think our board policy also had, Tyson, correct me if I'm wrong, tobacco and nicotine listed in there, so it's just more or less getting in compliance with where our board policy is.
Motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jenny, second.
I'll second.
Motion by, second was by Robert. Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Middle school.
For the middle school, also, a number of minor changes or things for clarity. The non-discrim statement, clarity about, where we post our announcements. I added ML to EL, lunch or nutrition information, student health information. Clarified the $20 maximum per school year with the athletic fee, which is something that's known, but it indicates per school year. I do have an indication there for honor roll, because we did update our grade scale to follow the high school scale. In the past, we had an A+. We no longer have, as of last year, we didn't have that, but the honor roll language didn't get updated. And so we may be reviewing that just to make sure we're doing what we need to do over the course of the year. And nicotine was added, the others, so.
Approval for the middle school.
I'll make that motion.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. High school.
So the high school handbook, it's mostly editorial changes similar to what the others are talking about. The one big change in here is the topic of weighted grades. And I just kind of want to go through and talk about how we got to where we did. First, the why behind it. I had gotten multiple questions throughout the year from parents, students, teachers about what is a weighted grade, what's not. The current policy that was in there is very confusing on how it is written. So what I did was I put a committee together of teachers, students, Mike was on there as well, and Linda joined us. as well for that, to go through, and we met for about 6 hours over 3 different meetings to talk about this and see where we fell on it. I'm not gonna go through all 6 hours of those meetings. I'll kind of paraphrase some things in there, but we kind of started it out with, the first question is, what is our why? Why would we have weighted grades? Why would we not? And kind of the reason behind it is to reward students for taking rigorous classes, as well as to promote and try to get them to take these college level classes, because we see how beneficial it is. So when we went through kind of those 2 questions, we then posed it out to the group of, should we or should we not have weighted grades? And it was pretty much unanimous across the board that we should have weighted grades for that purpose of promoting rigor, promoting students to take college classes, because it does benefit them. From there, we kind of took the conversation of, okay, now that we know we should have weighted grades, what should be weighted? Should core classes be weighted? Should non-core classes be weighted? Should 4-year college classes? Should TC classes? Should AP classes? And we had some really, really great conversations throughout this whole thing. I can definitely say we did not come to 100% consensus in the room. Everybody was kind of, I wouldn't say everybody, there was individuals that were in different spots than others. So after these meetings, what ended up happening was Mike and I and the counselors, we got together and we said, okay, we had all this feedback from the 6 hours of meetings. Let's put a policy together that kind of encompasses everything that was talked about in those meetings, which you're gonna see right here. So on that page 11 of the handbook on the top, where you got those 6 bullet points, it kind of delivers what that group wanted as far as weighted grades. They all believe that core classes should be weighted a little bit higher than non-core classes. Core is defined as English, math, science, social studies, and world languages. So that's kind of why there's the difference of the 1.2 multiplier for core classes and the 1.1 multiplier for non-core classes. Another big thing that kind of came across when we were talking as well is if you would for some reason have a student that's taking a remedial class at a 4-year university, so they're not quite into the college level class, it's a lower level one, that one should not be counted in this as well as if they were taking a class at a technical college, that it should be transferable to UWGB as well, showing that it kind of meets that rigor of it's gonna get to a 4-year college class as well. And what I was able to do, and I know it's hard on those packets, but if you're online, you can actually, it's linked in there. GB has a really nice website that has a bunch of transfer guides with them as well, that it goes through kind of all of their different majors, and you can go in and you can click on those and it'll show you a class that you took at TC, what it would transfer over to UWGB is as well, or if it would not transfer to UWGB at all. So they got kind of a really nice guide for that one as well. So basically, after all these meetings and after all these conversations, this is kind of what came out based on that, from that group, on what they thought would be the best and what would fit our students the most.
And the 3 students that were there actually chimed in quite a bit. It was really good to hear them, and actually, so the why statement was, because I'm pro diesel program, but I didn't have a vote. It wasn't part of it, but and they're like, that student's gonna take that pathway, that course, and it goes against what our why is. Our why is to get students to take the more rigorous courses. So they really kind of pushed back a little bit. It was really good conversation, and that they're gonna go down that career no matter what. Now, they weren't trying to devalue it, they weren't trying to do any of those parts, but it's to incentivize kids to take higher level college classes.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think our goal was to make the policy so it's more clear. So that when a student looks at it, when a parent looks at it, when a teacher looks at it, they know exactly what is a weighted grade, what's not, and if it's gonna get a multiplier, what is that multiplier going to be?
And the 2 of us actually now know what qualifies and doesn't qualify, so we feel good about it as well, and don't have to, so.
It was interesting discussion between the teachers, even knowing, well, I think that class is really a hard class. And then the other one would go, well, you don't think my class is that hard? You know, it was interesting.
Yeah, there were some really good discussions. I mean, if anything, it opened some great dialogue. And like Mike said too, the students were great in this as well. And I mean, they were very honest as well. They're like, you know, one of them, you'll notice in the first bullet point, it talks about this college success or first year seminar. Well, when students are going through the Rising Phoenix program, they're required to take, basically it's how to be a college student. And they're like, if we're given a weighted grade for that, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like those kids, yes, it's a class they have to take because it's part of Rising Phoenix, but you could go through it blindfolded and sleeping and still get an A in it. So hearing that from them was really helpful as well when going through and kind of trying to put this together.
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made, second, to approve the high school.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Intermediate school co-curricular code of conduct.
So we remained pretty status quo going into this next school year. If you recall, at the midpoint, actually I guess in summer, last year we would have updated our co-curricular code to align with the middle school. Previous to that, it was a very bland, not a ton of accountability type of a co-curricular code. Because we've only used 1 year of this or been on it for 1 year, I wanted to remain status quo for now just to, again, get that consistency and remain comfortable with it. The only thing I changed that you would see on your side is the non-discrimination statement. However, now with golf being approved, obviously I'll add that as a spring sport as well.
I'll make that motion. Second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Middle school co-curricular.
A few things on the middle school co-curricular. At the top, I'm recommending adding a line there, trying to, again, make sure that there's clarity that the transition from middle school to high school is like very short to almost non-existent, if you will. Like there's language in there that talks about how the day after 8th grade, like the high school code's in effect. The purpose of this, when this one was approved as a reminder, was a 3-page version, if you will, middle school, but still rooted in the high school code. And my effort with that sentence was to try to remind them, like, okay, if something's not listed in here and there's an infraction, like I'm going to be referring to the high school code for guidance. And I frequently have those conversations with Jenny Bondo if it comes to that. At the bottom of that first page, adding the exploratory FFA in that group 2 activity, high school activities that middle schoolers can be a part of. On the reverse side, I'm not sure why I didn't update this before, but the sudden cardiac arrest piece has been with the concussion form for a few years. Just adding that language. And then I'm recommending consideration of the level 4 violation. Just a brief flyover. Level 1 between the middle school and the high school code is the same for consequences. Level 2 is kind of a combo of high school 2 and 3, levels 2 and 3. Level 3 is like their level 4, level 4 is like the high school level 5. So I really pulled over high school level 5 language and put it here, but then I had to also change the consequence for the previous infraction. So that's why there's the cross out in the app.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Alex, second by
I'll second.
Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Co-curricular for the high school.
Jenny's not here, but I can speak to a couple of these things because her and I did meet to talk about this. It is mainly some editorial changes again. The big additions you'll see is down at the bottom on pages 14, 15, 16, and these are all changes based off of the latest WIA annual meeting where they have now added in Wisconsin, students can make money off their name, image, and likeness. So that's added in there. Jenny does have the note that once the WIA comes out with the fully cleaned up version, because right now they just kind of had the initial stuff for the meeting. she will add that in there, but they did add in name, image, and likeness, so that she's just kind of waiting on some cleanup language with that. And then they also did change the coaching contact and what can happen. It used to be historically, in the summer, you could only do 5 days, and now they've kind of opened it up wide. From June 1 to June 30th, that coaches can meet with athletes as much as they want. There's a dead period that first week of July, and then the rest of July, they can be meeting with coaches again. I do know that Jenny starting to meet with coaches to talk about those things, because obviously one of the main goals is not to, run our kids down throughout the summer with football every day and basketball every day and baseball every day. I'm sure there's gonna be some schools in the area that are gonna be doing that, but I know her philosophy was that's not what's gonna be best for our kids whatsoever. And she said, talking with the coaches, most of them are on board with that as well. So those were the only changes she was adding into there. It was basically from that WIA annual meeting.
Motion to approve the high school?
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made, second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. District Safety Handbook.
So if you recall, again, we brought this to you, it's brought to you every year, but we brought a kind of an overhaul to you again last summer. This year, we created a district safety team for the first time ever, so we have representatives from each of our buildings that come together quarterly to talk about district safety needs. The last 2 meetings that we held, we really focused on our security levels. We felt as though across the district, they weren't fluid, they didn't align well with each of our buildings, so we sat down and talked about what we felt our beliefs were regarding those safety security levels for lockdown. We had great discussions during our first, it would really be our third meeting, and then on our fourth and final meeting, I brought 3 different proposed options to the group of verbiage that we could use and a framework that we could utilize to make it a bit more streamlined and easier for not only staff to use, but also subs that are in the district in regards to those safety security levels. So if you saw, there was an attached sheet. Brandy, do you mind just kind of pulling that up? Thank you. Yep, so that sheet is what we would like to go with. That would go into our subfolders, into our safety sacks. It would go into any go bags or anything like that that we would utilize as like a quick reference sheet of how we approach a security lockdown. In addition to that, then in the safety handbook itself, if you noticed, I have a lot of highlighted and struck out section, but then also added in the new verbiage that aligns with this graphic. So that's what we would like to go into 25-26 school year with, is to use the new verbiage. Our safety team, like I said, talked about this. I had them review it. We brought it to admin a few times, so we feel pretty confident that the new language aligns with all of our buildings now versus the way it was previously. And then just in transparency, we're likely going to be bringing this handbook back to you at some point in the next school year, just because there is a large group of us going to a threat assessment training June 25th. So at that time, we're going to update our threat assessment practices and protocols as well. So it's kind of a preliminary change for now, and then changes are across the rest of the handbook coming again later in the school year.
Who's putting on the threat assessment training?
The Wisconsin DOJ runs the training.
Any questions, concerns?
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made, second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board policy, second reading. Because these were all discussed, do I have a motion to take us from letter W to triple X?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Jenny,
I called back policies 1130, 3230, 4230, 3414, and 4214.
Do you know which letters those are, Dave?
I had them, let's see if I've got them on the revised one. That would be letters Y, Z, double A, double H, and double I.
Y, Z, double A, double H,
and a double I.
and double I.
Conflict of interest and staff gifts.
Okay. So, do I have a motion to approve W and X?
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made by Alex, second,
I'll second.
second by Jenny. Opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Letter Y.
Letter Y, Z, and A, I would like to discuss all three since they all are related. Dealing with conflict of interest. The way it reads is on section F, it's been changed so that it reads, pursuant to federal rules, the school districts have set standards for when an administrative employee, officer, or agent may accept a gift of an unsolicited item of nominal value was struck out. I disagree with removing that. Nominal value is defined as no single verb universally agreed definition. It can be dependent upon the context. Examples of nominal value include promotional items, t-shirts, mugs, pens, keychains, etc., small tokens of appreciation, flowers, chocolates, small gift baskets, occasional meals or refreshments, coffee, snacks, simple lunch, small gifts for special occasions, employee achievement awards, plaques, trophies, etc. Federal government also goes ahead and defines for CMS, the Center for Medicare Services, nothing more than $15. Office of, OIG, Office of, I forgot what it stands for. On those things, generally nothing more than $25. The reason for this is for ethics, if nothing else. When you start getting gifts of $100 and you can get them several times a year, it leads the public to question, how ethical is this? It leads to, there's no reason why you can't go ahead and remain where it is instead of increasing it. I just totally think that it is not ethically correct. I think it strikes at the heart of the sense of trust, ethics, and integrity that the public has with us. And if we go ahead and change it so that anyone be given $100, and it can be given to $100 to this person and that person and that person, at a time, it's just not very ethical in my opinion. I have no problem with keeping it at the $25. Keep the definition of nominal in there.
So what happens if a company wants to hand out some jackets that's a car jacket's $150 jacket?
That's right, yeah, shouldn't do it. You shouldn't accept it.
You're gonna tell them?
I'm sorry, but my business says, my school district says, we cannot accept that. I appreciate it, but that's not good. I'm sorry, Alex, but I disagree with accepting gifts like that. It's not
Well, here,
ethical.
let me give you another, and if you wanna, slap my hand, you can. So with the draft, with our partner with Bellin, they had a reception, and so it was free food, free beer, got into, we're at their, facility that was right next to Lambeau. And so I know I went, Mike went, and, so, yeah, we ate, we drank, it was probably, it was way over $25, between the two of us, but it was also like a really great networking opportunity. We were both working in the room, we were talking to other people, there were other superintendents there were CISA representatives there, there were representatives from Bellin that we already know, met some other people from Bellin, and it was a really great event to be able to do that. Now, so when you're putting that down to that nominal value, so we shouldn't have gone to that event. Because it did have, because it's gonna be over the nominal value, but for us, it was a really good opportunity to get the district out there and to make some new connections.
I don't know what the average cost, that would have been, number one. Number two, when we attend things down at the state convention, if we go to some of these things, I believe that we are charged for them. I know businesses used to go ahead and say, we're not have to charge because otherwise we will be doing more than nominal value. So, I'm not sure what that cost would have been. I just think that it is inappropriate. It's not ethical.
But yet, think of all of the people that they met there and talked to and got our name of LC out.
Was there a fee to attend?
No,
Did you have to participate in the food and the drinks?
No.
No. Therefore, you could have
No, I mean,
been
it's
there
supposed
and
to
not
be
been involved in any cost.
and not get
But what if there is no number put on it, then we don't know the nominal value, therefore it's,
No, it's not ethical.
Dave, you mentioned the gifts of $100. From what you read, do you view a $100 gift to fit in the definition of nominal?
No.
I don't either. So I think the way it's written, they couldn't just receive gifts of $100 like.
The way it's changed, it would be no.
No, because it says nominal, but your definition of nominal,
I said, stay with the
$100.
old definition.
which is $25.
Yeah, the policy is asking to go ahead and strike that and say that you can get $100 gifts several times a year. And you can give it to how many people?
who's to say it's worth that? You know, what if I bulk buy something, and I get it
Can I see the policy?
for $25, and someone else buys one thing and they have to pay $100, and it's the same item?
I'm sorry,
Well, I mean, like, say you bulk buy something, so it drops the price significantly, so you can hand this all out. Or if somebody comes with, they bought one jacket, it's twice the cost, but it's the same jacket. Well, who's putting the price on it, is what I'm saying.
common sense, I think. You're just,
Yeah, I'm making a point, is what I'm doing.
yeah, you are.
Well, I think Joellen's example is perfect for what he's saying, how you can't, she's not gonna take a ledger of the value of everything that you eat or drink, and those are all gifts. I mean, it's,
You can
who's
attend
gonna
it.
put a value on this? Like, I mean, really, I think that that's a valid point.
Okay, so, Dave, do you have a motion on this?
I have a
Y, Z,
motion.
and double A?
My motion for, it's like, Y, Z, and double A is to not adopt the changes that were approved at the last board meeting.
The ones you approved at the last board meeting.
Yeah,
Just- okay,
I objected
just
to them, but I
But
did
you
not
did
vote
approve
against it. But that's the reason for a second reading, is so that you can make
Okay,
changes
so,
out.
do I have a first of a no. Do I have a second on Y, Z, and double A?
Dave, what is your motion again? To what?
To not accept the changes that were
Presented?
approved, that were presented and approved at the last board meeting.
Okay, do I hear a second? Last call, do I hear a second? No second.
I will make a motion to approve all policies for the second reading.
For all,
All.
So
motion's been made and seconded to
that's
approve.
Y to the very end.
Yep, okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Motion's been made and seconded to go from W to triple X. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call. Brandy?
Aye.
Dave?
No.
Robin?
Aye.
Jonathan?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Motion carried. They are approved. Going to information items. We need to set up a buildings and grounds committee and a finance committee. So those of you that are on those committees, please get out your calendar.
Buildings grounds, Alex, who was?
John, isn't it? Robin, I think it's
Oh,
those
Robin's
three.
not here.
Buildings and grounds, Alex, Brandy, and Robin.
Brandy, so when can you, shoot a date?
How early can we meet?
I'm basically unavailable until the 3rd of June.
You're unavailable till June?
Yeah.
Remember, the 3rd of June is that
Is
meeting
the
at
Casco Village.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I'm gonna be landing in Washington for 30, so if I can.
Just land here.
I can't, I'm on airlines with the regular guys.
You do fly regular?
But I'm forced to.
Oh.
Ryo Cricket.
Yeah, I think so. It's like the
I'm
Rocky
open
Airport.
the 4th or, the 5th, the next week,
What's this one?
the 9th, the 11th, the 13th.
Okay, the whole next week, well, Rebecca can run it, but I'm gonna be, out of the country. So. Yeah.
Fourth it is.
Feeling the love.
Have an extra margarita.
Going to Greece. Who's up? Yes.
Could we do like a 4 o'clock by chance? And I don't really care what day if I can do 4 o'clock.
Brandy, what's your
I can make
time?
4 o'clock.
You can do-
On what
Yep.
day?
Were you saying the 4th?
I'm gonna be gone.
No, I'll be here for.
Oh, 4th, okay.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, the 4th was fine.
Okay, so June 4th at 4 o'clock. Buildings and grounds.
Finance. Dave, Alex, and Jonathan.
It's because boys' baseball is on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Tournament practices are Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just do early. We're looking for June 2nd and 3rd are open. I'm in Minnesota the rest of that week.
We could do, I could do this,
How early can you do it, dude? Like time-wise?
5:30.
$5:30, Dave?
What's over?
Is that what you said?
not
Yes.
very good at all.
5:30 Monday the 2nd?
Let's see, where is that at? I guess, I just like, I guess so. They, do we need that to run?
Those are called assistant coaches.
No, there's only, there's only one assistant. We'll find that out.
June 2nd, 5:30?
John, does that work for you?
Just whichever one.
It'll work.
June 2nd? 5:30. All right, awesome.
Okay, consideration to adjourn to closed session.
Make the motion.
Motion by Alex, second by Jenny, all in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
Tyson, get some sleep with me. Great sport.
They were good. They were funny.
That, black stone is coming handy.
Caleb
for
said
the
they were
soup.
there at midnight.
He's not lying, because I got in the shower at 11:30, and I'm like, are you taking a shower? He's like, we're taking
25:01
a 10
for
guys.
Rebecca.
Yes, I'm taking a shower.
And I told him, I said, you guys had to have been cold. He's like, no, we're actually really warm.
Yeah.
Dawn, she took 2 bowls.
It was,
She took the rest that was in there. I said, just take it.
All day yesterday, and they did like senior sunset at baseball.
that's what they said they were
Right.
doing.